quietinha aqui dentro do meu barraco. Vou te arrastar pro beco, vai ser sequência de barraco.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Doom Den. My name is John from Team Doom Spiral, and today what we're going to be talking about are some of the tools of the trade. Basically the peripherals and items that you can procure over the course of your hobby life that will make gaming easier. And some of these that we identified in this top 10 are the ones that we found to be the most useful. Now, you don't need to go and buy these all at once, but these are just some recommendations that through the course of going to different events and playing at games that just made things a lot less of a headache. So we'll go ahead and start with number 10 and go from there. So to start off, let's talk about number 10. That's going to be squad differentiators. Anything like squad marks or clip-on things that can help you differentiate units or models. Things like these guys, which are very useful, but not necessary for the course of the game. What I've used mine for historically is to differentiate between a different weapon or different units if you have a multitude of the same unit type. So that way if stars align, they all end up in the same place. You can tell which squad is which or which weapon is which and from where. They're not absolutely necessary for playing the game or making things work. A lot of people have a very good memory about what unit is what. That's why it's going to be number 10 on the list. And that's pretty much the long short of it. So let's go on to number 9. So next up is number 9, and that is going to be our playmat from FLG. So our Frontline Gaming player's mat. It's already pre-cut for 44x60, which is the play type for strike missions. Perfect for practicing at home or taking, say if you want to TO your own events, you can bring that, lay it out on a table. It takes care of a table. You don't have to pre-measure, set dice, set walls, or anything else. It just really takes out the guesswork. The reason why I have this at number 9 though is a lot of people aren't going to be doing that. It might just be okay with placing the dice or placing the walls or measuring, not planning on TOing or anything. And you can't bring your own mats to events like RTTs and stuff. So they already have everything laid out for you. So from a player perspective, I've had this at 9 for that reason. Just move on to number 8. So number 8 is going to be player terrain. So these terrain sets that I've been showing in my previous videos here on Doom Den and are sold by FLG, they are invaluable when you need terrain if you're playing games at home, or even if you do want to contribute to an event like a local event that you're in the community with. In terms of looking at it as trying to play at these events and go there, it's not super useful just because you can't bring them. But for play at home and practicing with these types of terrain, the keywords that they come with and everything, which I discussed in my previous video, they're very useful. So that's why I placed them at number 8. I'm going to go ahead and start looking at number 7. Lucky number 7. So at number 7, what I went ahead and put was wound markers, like these guys. Now, they're pretty useful. They're little dial wound markers. They are shaped like this, and the larger ones go up to 20 wounds. The smaller ones go up to 10, and you just place them onto the base or adjacent to a unit that's been wounded, and it helps you track how many wounds they have left. The reason why I think that these are pretty good is because you don't have to use dice to do that, although you can easily just use a d6 or a couple d6 to track your wounds as well. I just find these more useful because you can also double duty with them, use them to show where you've done actions like R&D or raise the banners, anything like that you can use these for. So they're valuable, but they're not necessary, not super necessary. So that's why I placed them at 7. They're about mid-road. Now let's go ahead and talk about number 6. So going on to number 6, one of the most easy to use piece of equipment is going to be the cards. So these are the cards that come with the data card set that you can buy for your army. They include all the psychic powers, stratagems, and other sort of actions that you can perform with your army. I recommend having these, in a deck. And if they don't have some for the stratagems, for instance, like when Crusher Stampede came out, you can go ahead and make custom ones. I went ahead and did some of these, just put them on a magic card template, laminated them up, and there you're good to go. Typically, these events do require you mark or use a token in some way to denote what unit has what benefit. So using these is very helpful. It's not absolutely necessary. At the same time, I have gone ahead and used a different color die for it. D6s can sub in for pretty much anything in this game, so that's why it's number 6. Not super necessary, very important nonetheless. So let's move on to number 5. So first spot in the top 5 for most important pieces, I would say, would be the dice tray. Now these are very nifty, especially when you're playing at an RTT or an event. And the reason why is because you'll have players that'll sometimes, not that they mean to, but you can't just assume they're not playing above board, but sometimes they'll roll dice behind terrain, into terrain, or just in the middle of the mat, and sometimes having to go around and look and see where everyone's rolling, it's a bit of a headache. So I always bring one. You can get these pretty much anywhere, Amazon, eBay, you name it, and just put it on the board, offer to share. Offering to share a dice tray is important. It's basically like showing an open palm. It's a handshake. It's like, hey, I want to play above board with you, let's just play and roll on the same dice tray. If they have one, use theirs. It's cool either way. It lets you both track your dice too. You don't have to go hunting and pecking for different d6. So for me, that's why this is in the number 5 spot. Let's move on to number 4. So number 4 on the list is going to be neoprene objective markers. Now these guys, as you've seen in my previous videos, take a lot of the guesswork out of finding an objective. I've gotten to the point where, and not just because my face is on this, but I've fallen out of love with your standard medallion 40mm objective marker. These just make it so much easier. You've got your 40mm circle right there, so you know exactly where the coin would be. It's got a center pip, so then you can see exactly where the center is for placing. Makes it really easy. And if you're touching that mat, or you're on that mat, you're on the objective. You don't have to go and measure with the tool or you know, you mess around with any of that. Saves you a lot of time and effort. I think they're very important. That's why I put them at 4. Let's move on to 3. So number 3 for most important piece of equipment for 40K or piece of product is going to be the Battlescribe app, actually. The reason why I like Battlescribe a lot is just because for list making, it takes out a lot of variables. It's not always correct, and it's obviously a third-party source. You could also use the 40K app to make your list, but I just like Battlescribe just because you can export it very easily. Copy the chat text, put it right into Best Coast pairings, upload your list. The format's accepted universally. It doesn't come out super readable. Some TOs don't like it, some TOs do. In my personal opinion, I prefer Battlescribe. It's also very easy to go in there and change your list. Just watch out and always double check your rules in the book if you got your codex, or you can use Wahapedia as well. That's pretty much it for number 3. Let's move on to 2. So number 2 on this list is actually going to be the ITC Battle app. Now, this is one of my favorite apps, and I will not stop preaching about it or evangelizing for it. It's very, very easy to go ahead and track your scoring, track your secondaries, have it all up, and it puts it in a nice sheet. I don't know about you guys, but I have some terrible handwriting. I'm not a doctor, but I could have been just based off my handwriting. So I try to avoid the paper scoring, and I go straight to the app. Most everyone you encounter at an event will have this app on their phone, and you'll be able to sanity check each other on it, keep your score safe, save them up, and it'll even give you metrics for yourself as a player of your win rate, loss rate, practice games and tournaments, so you can kind of see and do postmortems yourself on your play and how everything's been going. So that I really like, and I think is very, very necessary, especially for me, because like I need something to track my own scoring. So we'll move on to number 1. So number 1 most important thing that you can procure, have, use, whatever during your games, I think, is a tray. Doesn't matter what the tray is. Could be a dinner tray, a wooden tray, a tray you got from the FLG store or wherever. But a tray to transport your army is very, very, very helpful. I remember my first RTT, I did not have a tray, and although it was a small store, I tried carrying my models hand by hand over to the next table. I broke one of my Hive Guard, and I will never forget it because I never found the piece. It was so very unfortunate, and I decided no mas. The next one I went and bought this tray. It's a dinner tray, but it holds my army, holds all my stuff, as you can see, keeps it all safe, makes it easy to just carry to and from to the next table, especially at the larger events. Easy to travel with. I cannot recommend this enough for players that are just picking it up or starting to go to events. Going with your box or having to pack them back or carrying them hand by hand, it's a recipe for disaster. So definitely a tray, I think, is in the number 1 slot. Go ahead and have some honorable mentions too that I didn't bring up, but I think are still very valuable. So one of the first honorable mentions is going to be a portable battery pack. I take a rechargeable one everywhere I go, simply because between the ITC Battle Apps app and the Battlescribe app on my phone, I'm burning a lot of battery in addition to texting and doing everything else. So taking one of these with you is very important. You can just plug it right in, put it in your pocket, carry it around with you while you got your phone on the table. It's easy. It's very simple. And it also has proximity, this particular one, so you just place it right there on the table with your battery pack. It'll charge it. I really enjoy these. I think that it's very important to have one. The second honorable mention is going to be non-measuring tape measuring implements. Obviously, you know, everyone's going to have a measuring tape like this one because you need it. This is an inches game, so you need some way of measuring. But I'm talking about measuring gauges like these. Very important for combat. Saves you a lot of time measuring, but not absolutely necessary. It's got 1 inch, 3 inch, ½ inch, and 6 inch all along these edges. Just place it on the table and measure your inches. Very simple, very easy to use. And one of the next ones is going to be non-D6 dice. So things like this, you can get these pretty much any FLG, any hobby store, whatever. I use these for tracking CP in addition to the app. The reason why is you want your opponent to be able to have some transparency for how you're spending CP, how much you're spending, that sort of thing. Not that you don't trust them, but just keep yourself on level. And the last honorable mention is going to be the humble chest clock. I'm going to be making a separate video about chest clocks and how they work, so stay tuned for that. That's pretty much the long short of it. Thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate the patronage, everybody. Getting some great growth on this channel. We got the R2T in a week now. It's gonna be on the 21st. I think that's a week. And we're trying to keep the schedule. Things got a little bit hectic, so trying to keep to that, and hopefully to see you guys at the next video. Like, comment, subscribe. Plenty of merch to be had. Shirts, objective markers, and dice. The whole nine. Thanks again for watching, everybody. Remember, we're Team Doom Spiral. We doom so you don't have to.
É que hoje vai ter festinha aqui dentro do